G'day guys, my name's Paul. Thanks for watching this video. I've currently found a beautiful road in the New South Wales countryside. It's 140 kilometres unsealed section, and normally I wouldn't be overly comfortable running down a road with the stock tyres on this van because they're just on-road tyres, and I've encountered quite a few sharper rocks, ruts, potholes and so forth. If I was to have to change a tyre out here, it'd be a real big hassle. So basically, because I'm traveling around and I want to travel down some of these unsealed roads, getting some all-terrain tyres on the van made sense. So I've made a video explaining what I've done. Hope you like it. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you like the channel. Cheers guys. So I found a great stretch of road in the Australian countryside. It's a 140 kilometre unsealed road. The tyres that came with the van, the Bridgestone Duravis, are designed for on-road use, but I wanted to get off the beaten track, so I went with these Falken Wildpeak all-terrain tyres. The main advantage of sticking with the Bridgestones is they are 6% better in fuel economy, I came to discover, and they're a little bit quieter on the highway, but not by much. The main reason I wanted to get all-terrain tyres on the van is just being able to get off the beaten track. You know, a lot of these roads that I'm coming across travelling around Australia are dirt, unsealed, rocky sections, softer surfaces, and the road tyres just didn't cut it. So I did a bit of research. I went to quite a few dealers and finally found these Falkens that fitted on the Hiace. Because the van is a rear-wheel drive car, as soon as I hit any loose surfaces with the original tyres, they would just spin up very easily. But the tread pattern and the slightly bigger sizing of these tyres makes getting up unsealed roads a hell of a lot easier now. And just being able to get to places I wouldn't normally get to has made upgrading to these tyres well worth it. So I ended up getting the Falken Wildpeak tyres. It was either going to be those or the BF Goodrich, but these were $60 a tyre cheaper, and they came well recommended by online reviews. They're a Japanese brand, and I went with the Wildpeak AT3W. They're designed to have long life wear, they're used in winter, and have good wet weather performance, which was important for me because I'm driving in all conditions. Being able to take it into the snow is a plus. I mean, in Australia we don't have a lot of snow a lot of the time, but you never know, I might venture up there at some point. The tread on these tyres is just a lot more aggressive, obviously, than the tyres I had previously, and explains why I can travel down these unsealed roads with a lot less trouble. They've also got a very solid sidewall on them, which I found came in handy when I reduced the pressure on the tyres. It adds 2 centimetres to my overall ride height, which was really important because it's low as standard.
No worries.
Just having that extra 2 centimetres makes a big difference out there. It doesn't turn the van into a rock hopping machine, but I found there were plenty of instances where just having that extra ground clearance was super handy, because with the road tyres the van actually sits really quite low to the ground. The wet weather performance on road of these tyres was also really impressive. I didn't seem to notice really any difference to the handling or braking, so that was a huge plus. The roads out here are just absolutely beautiful, and going from a sealed road to an unsealed road, one of the first things I did was reduce the pressure in the tyres. I try to keep the pressure in the tyres somewhere between 40 to 45 psi on road, but as soon as you hit an unsealed road, reducing the tyre pressure to 30 psi increased the comfort greatly. You know, getting over those corrugations and the little stones and ruts and so forth, if you keep the pressure up, it's just too stiff a ride. And by reducing the pressure in the tyre, it obviously makes your suspension work a hell of a lot less too, and it's just better for the road and the car in general.
Wow, the scenery around here is absolutely amazing. Beautiful, beautiful road. When I had the tyres installed, they recommended I inflate them to 45 PSI, and that certainly seems to work on the road. But as soon as you hit an unsealed section with corrugations and ruts and potholes, that tyre pressure is certainly too much. So I've reduced it to 30 PSI, and that smooths the ride out considerably actually. And without seeming to affect control of the vehicle. So super happy with the effect reducing the tyre pressure has on the ride comfort, because obviously the Hiace van's not designed for corrugations and off-road, but it seems to handle it much better when you change the OEM tyres for these all-terrains.
So thanks to these all-terrain tyres, it's allowed me to park in places like this by the river, on these cobblestones here, which I'd never dream of thinking of doing with the standard tyres. It was absolutely beautiful last night. The scenery around here is just absolutely breathtaking.
Found this beautiful campground. It's completely empty now that school holidays are finished. I can't imagine it gets that busy here anyway. It's a pretty remote, but it's pretty special to have it all to yourself.
Because there's no one around, I took all my gear off and went running like a madman. It was awesome. Thanks to these new tyres, it's allowed me to sleep in remote, beautiful places. And when I wake up, it's always a really nice surprise. And after a restful night, it was time to head off on more adventures. You know, just having these tyres just makes this van so much more dependable. You know, nothing gets in the way of these tyres. And even piles of cow shit. Thanks to these Falken wild trucks, it's taken me to places like this. Abandoned towns in the middle of nowhere. And I can either go that way, or I can go down that way, or that way. There's 3 ways in, 3 ways out.
Isn't she a beauty? Red-bellied black snake. Deadly, deadly snake. One of the most poisonous snakes in Australia. Do not try this at home. She's resting. She's resting right now in the sun. They love to rest on a hot road like this.
Tell you what, you want to be making sure you're driving straight along this road. It's a pretty steep bank down there. And if the car goes down, it's a fair way down to the bottom. So I've been driving down this road for the past couple of days on 30 psi. The road's starting to get a bit corrugated now, so I thought I'd reduce the pressure to 25 and see how much added comfort I get. Obviously I'll lose a bit of economy, but if I can stop some of the rattling in the van, it'll be well worth it. So I'll give it a go. All right, so we'll reduce the pressure in the tyre till 25.
That's actually made a really big difference. I mean, you can still feel the corrugations, but it's a hell of a lot smoother actually. I'm pretty impressed with how much better that is. And even the dips in the road, like the cracks and a few little ruts, it's a lot smoother through it. So that works amazingly well. I'll have to research how low you can actually go with the tyre pressure. But at the moment, running at 25, it's really quite smooth. And I'm actually running over corrugations right now. You might be able to hear it, but it just floats over the top of it. So, big thumbs up. These all-terrain tyres have allowed me to go to some wild places. And in wild places in Australia, you've got some wild animals, including the kangaroo. I've been scouring the landscape looking for kangaroos to show you, in case you've never seen one before, and I found one. Sure, it's not the form I want it in, but it's gonna have to do.
Well, now that I'm back on the sealed road, it's time to pump the tyres up, and I highly recommend going for one of these 12-volt air compressors. I've gone for the smallest one I could find just to keep the space down to a minimum. It takes about 7 or 8 minutes to pump up the tyres from 25 to 45 psi, but it allows a lot of flexibility when you're travelling in the outback, and also going for one of these digital tyre pressure readers. So I was just driving up this road and I thought there was a rock on the road, but there's actually a looks like there's a bird just sitting on the road. So I went around it and then I've reversed up Sorry, mate, but if you sit on the road, someone's going to run you over. Well, the weather was hot and I need to cool down. So what better way than to swim in this beautiful creek. Also, these rapids up ahead look like a fun way to go.
How amazing is it here? The water is actually warm. And there's no one around. What a beautiful way to end the trip.
So for dinner that night, I decided to make a poke bowl. And when you're traveling on the road, making rice can be a bit time consuming, and I found this pre-steamed rice which would only take a couple of minutes to heat up. So that was a good find in the supermarket. So for my poke bowl, I used tomato, some salmon, edamame beans, some sweet corn, pineapple, avocado, cut up some cabbage, and I'll drizzle on some olive oil on the end. To cook with, I've got this single burner Japanese Iwatani stove, and I use this collapsible cooking pot from Cedar Summit, and I also use the plates. The plates are super handy, they actually double as a chopping board on the bottom. So there it is, the finished product. I just drizzle on some olive oil to finish it off and some coconut water. Absolutely beautiful. Only problem was, next morning I woke up not feeling 100%. Not sure if it was the creek or the poke bowl. Well, that's it, the end of the road. It's been an amazing experience out here in the New South Wales outback. Endless plains, dusty roads. I certainly couldn't have done it without the Falken all-terrain tyres. They gave me the confidence to tackle those unsealed roads. You know, I had a touching text message this morning from my ex-girlfriend. She knows I've gone walkabout and she found a spot on the map that reminded her of me. It just happens to be 11 kilometers down the road, so I'm gonna go check it out. Anyway, thanks again for watching, guys, and hooroo. Did you hear that? No? That's the sound of silence. That's the beauty of coming out here into the outback. My name's Paul. How you going? G'day! G'day guys. Thanks for clicking on this video. You know, it's times like this in the Great Australian Bush when it's raining, you've got flies, mozzies, midgies, when I think, what the hell am I doing out here? And I'm out here in the Great Australian Outback. Now, I'm from the city. I've never owned a four-wheel drive before. However, I have decided to make a video about all-terrain tyres sounding like an absolute knobhead. When I grew up in Sydney, Australia, I was told about the Great Australian Outback. Well, here I am in my 2019 Toyota Hiace. Is there anything more Australian than camping by a riverbank out here in the great outdoors, wearing an Akubra and talking like an absolute wanker? There isn't.
I know what you're thinking. What is this legend doing out here in the outback with a van? Well, I'm here to show you.